I think that's the biggest mistake is people start way too late. You know, what does an exit mean? What are the options of a buyer? And so that have kind of been through that and lives it in their own world. Who would be the potential buyers? A lot of people, most just get into the business and they want to build it, right?
By the time most start thinking about it, it's too late.
Yeah, I would say get with the right people and start building your team. And it's an internal team, like a leadership team. We can guide them in the right direction. A lot of it is up with us, but we can delegate and bring in the experts and
Current market trends that you think business owners should be aware of that might
just to make sure that they, are aware of what others are.
call it an opportunity list. Welcome to the Exit Guild. My name is Erica Lane. Thanks for being here. I am very excited about our guests today. Today we have a dynamic financial advisor and former Iowa Hawkeye football player, Greg McLaughlin. He's a founder at Business Financial Strategies, and he's married to Sarah and has 2 daughters, Ella and Addison. And if you were to find him in his free time, you'd probably find him serving on boards, volunteering, and participating in triathlons of all things, as well as supporting probably his favorite college team in every sport, the Hawkeyes. Greg McLaughlin, welcome. Now, I know that for me, this is a fun fact that we met May 2024, I believe. It was in May in San Diego at a mastermind event. And I remember sitting across from you and your wife and looking at calamari and saying, I don't want to eat it. And I believe you both enjoyed that, the calamari part, and I was a chicken.
I remember that it was a long day of conferences, and you were trying to get through the long meal, and we were all kind of ready to go to bed. It was time.
Exactly, and something that I got from our conversation as you guys were sharing just a little bit about family is that for both of us, family is a very important thing with kids and significant others. So it was nice to get to know you and your wife briefly. And that's kind of what led us
I appreciate
to be here.
Having me on today, and I'm looking forward to it. It's a good topic and good to get this stuff out there.
All right. Well, let's get going then. Well, Greg, I know that you are a founder in your company, and yet you are actually the visionary, if you will, and you continue to grow your company, your organization through acquisitions, which means you've been on both sides of this exit equation. And so chances are that you have some perspective, a powerful opinion, if you will, that business owners preparing for an exit need to know. What is it, and why do you feel it's important?
That is a big point that we are or have been on both sides, and knowing that working with someone that goes through that same mental game that the business owners are going through. And so, we help with that process, as far as, helping the business owner and starting the process early, even though they're not looking to exit in the next year or two. It's always good to kind of start thinking that way. But yeah, as far as like just working with someone that is an owner themselves, and same thought process. There's no difference in that mental game that you go through on exiting a business.
You talk about it as being a mental game, and I was stalking you a little bit, if you will, on LinkedIn, and something I saw that you posted, and I think this connects to that mental game, is that you recently launched a course for business owners.
Yes.
Is that correct? Yeah. In your opinion, how can this course help business owners prepare for that mental game? And maybe what are the most common mistakes you see them making when they're preparing for an exit?
The main purpose of the course, in my opinion, is just to get people to start thinking about it, and start to think about the exiting of their business, or, who would be the potential buyers. A lot of people, or most, just get into the business and they want to build it, right? And so having those discussions, not in the business, but on the business, and starting to look at, I think that's the biggest mistake, is people start way too late. Once they decide they want to sell, in my opinion, that's too late, and now some work out for people, obviously, and whatnot. But I think, looking at it from that perspective, I think the purpose of the course, in my opinion, is to start the conversation, start to think about it, and then reach out to have a conversation, because every business is different, and it's custom.
Okay. Well, and as they start to think about it, because you mentioned by the time most start thinking about it, it's too late. And you want them to start thinking about it early. I know that you are in the financial planning world, you're a financial advisor, but can you explain how a financial advisor, the role that a financial advisor plays in the exit planning, and how maybe this can help business owners start thinking about exiting earlier?
I don't think it's a broad term, or financial advisors, right? I think that you need a financial advisor that is in that game, or that are all in on business owners, because the advisor can manage money and help in different ways. But I think you want to have someone on your team that knows, what does an exit mean? What are the options of a buyer? And so that have kind of been through that and lives it in their own world. And I think that is the key, is that, having, when you say like financial advisor in general, I think, building that team around you is key, but also the right people on that team. And so just to have a CPA, or just to have an attorney or a financial advisor, in my opinion, doesn't check that off the list. I think they need to have the experience, and, sometimes personal experience in that game.
Yeah. Since you bring up the idea that having a financial advisor that is, I want to say, laser focused on business owners is important. Can you speak to how your profession, or your business really helps the business owner increase their business's value, especially if they're getting started ahead of the game? How do you play into that increasing the business value?
We help with the estimate of valuation. And so if someone wants to go and get a stamped valuation, we're not the people for that. But if one of our clients are 5 or 10 years away from exiting, and so you don't want to go spend a bunch of money, you just want to know more than what you think the value is, then we would be the people to talk to on that. And it's an estimate evaluation. We go through a couple of hours of questions, and you get a good range. But to answer your question about how we can help, that will, going through those questions will help to say, is there a strategic vision? Is there core values? Some of those things that might not be done right now or acting on right now, we can help with that, and we can guide them in the right direction. A lot of it isn't with us, but we can delegate and bring in the experts in that case. One example would be like a buy-sell agreement, or a employee handbook, things like that might get overlooked that will help in a valuation or an exit.
Well, if a business owner does come to you, let's say with 5 to 10 years, wouldn't that be the ideal? They're coming to you 5 to 10 years in advance. And besides the buy-sell agreement, besides maybe an employee handbook, what key services do you provide to the business owners that really adds value to them during this journey?
We go through a full financial plan for the business owner. One thing that helps with would be, if someone has a valuation of $5 million that they could sell their business for, well, maybe that's enough. Maybe that's enough for their family's goals. And so we go through questions. Do you want to go through the next 10 years of building this to 20 million? Whatever that number is. And so you kind of can help and be a coach from that aspect, not telling them what the answers are, but just guiding them and asking the right questions. And so we help a lot with that. So a full financial plan is one big one. The other one is we can do quarterly check-ins on the business. And so there might be a top 10 that we're working through, and they can engage us that way, and we can help. Again, it might not be through our office, but just, hey, how's this going here? Have you done this yet? No. Or yes, we have. Check it out.
You said, I'm sorry to interrupt. You said there may be a top 10 that they're working through. When you say a top 10 that they're working through, that
would come out from like the estimate of valuation to how they can increase the value of their business. And so some things are quicker than others to work through. So sometimes we get some good wins at first and knock those out, and then we work on some of the longer term things after that. Good one.
Okay, so let me see if I get this straight. A business owner comes to you, they sit down and they have a conversation. You said a couple of hours, maybe 2 or 3 hours conversation. You can give them an estimated value of their business, give them I'm going to call it a hit list of maybe 10 things that they could work on immediately. Well, I say immediately. They can work on to increase the value of their conversation. And then that top 10 is that my hit list. There's got to be a better way to say that. It sounds a little violent. Let's call it an opportunity list.
Yes, you said it very simple. It takes more time and than just that. But yeah, that would be the summary. But we help navigate that. We don't guarantee anything. We don't, those are an estimate and things that we see in the industry that can help the valuation, if it's private equity, if it's a strategic buyer or competitor, internal value, or a family transition.
Thank you. And you I want to go back to the estimate that people get, because you said that's what they're coming to get from you. They're not getting a stamped actual valuation. That's weekly. I know you have a team of people, a team of experts that you bring to the table when you work with a business owner. Who is that team player, that connection you make for them to help them get that final stamp of value for their company? And when are they ready to get that actual value?
Yeah, usually that's a CPA firm that would
a CPA
specializes in that. again, it comes down to cost. So if someone was looking at, like, seriously looking at exiting, then we would say you should go do that. But if someone's looking 5+ years, we wouldn't recommend that because that's gonna change. And so that's where that's how we kind of look at that time horizon. And people don't want to just spend money to spend money. They want to be, efficient with that. So.
Well, it sounds like you don't leave anyone alone. They come to you, go through this process, and in many ways, you're holding their hand and making sure they meet the right people to make sure the right steps are followed. I think that's fantastic. And I have many more questions, but before I jump in, I know I did an introduction for you saying who you are, but can you give a little background and a little background and tell us a little bit more about your role?
Yeah, I guess a little background. I jumped right into the financial planning world right out of college. So 24 years ago, but, I went sink or swim model, back kind of how it was then. And now it's a little different where you can come out of college, be an advisor, go into an existing firm and get a salary. That wasn't the case when I started. But you had to meet a lot of potential clients to succeed. Now we own a wealth management firm, business and financial strategies. We manage assets under management, help with people on their personal planning and business planning. The big thing is I own some real estate and other businesses. So I'm in the same world as a lot of these clients. And so this is a natural kind of industry or a niche that I'm working with. It kind of puts myself in their shoes to help navigate any challenges that come up. It helps introduce clients to the firm and work with businesses, in growing that. So that's a little bit of, the background, but we are a wealth management firm that I do more of this as a niche for the company.
Why did you choose to niche in this area for the company? Is this a passion area for you?
For sure. Like I said, have some real estate and do stuff myself. And it's, it's going through and helping people that have, spent a lot of time. Business owners will reinvest in their business. And so they don't have a big nest egg outside like other people that go to work, put money in 401k and, do that. But their biggest asset is usually their business. And how do we exit that? How do you turn that into, cash or money? Right?
Well, given that this is the business is potentially the business owner's largest asset, and your job is to really help them get as much money as they can out of it. What are some best practices that business owners should adopt early on as they're considering an exit? And I'm talking about that in that 5 to 10 year range, that exit. What are some best practices for them?
Say get with the right people and start building your team. I would say it's an internal team, like a leadership team. We see that a lot where you have the owner trying to do everything and wear every hat possible, and they will do that. But at some point you need to step back and what are you good at? What are you passionate about? What do you like to do? And so building that leadership team, and it's not cheap, it comes off the bottom line usually. And so that would be one big one, but also the team outside. What's your professional team look like? Your accountant, your attorney, your financial advisor. I would say if they're not the right fit, find another one that is. And so do that earlier than later. And you want to have someone that is in this world and that has the experience of helping businesses transition and working to kind of increase that value.
So we have the internal team, leadership team, external team, advisors. Let's say someone only has a CPA and they're thinking, I have a CPA, I'm starting from nothing. If they were to come to you, how do you typically collaborate with other professionals to make sure that your business owners, your business owner clients have the team they need, especially if I have a CPA, I'm good.
In most of the time, and so SEPA, so Certified Exit Planning Advisor, the first thing you learn is like the trusted advisor for most businesses are the CPA. And so that is normal.
Yes.
Like they have that. And I think, adding a financial advisor, adding an attorney, those are other key things. Insurance plays a part into it as well. But, having the professionals on your team that have an experience in the business planning. So if they already have someone, we work with them. We don't want to change relationships or anything like that. If they don't have an advisor that we work with at our network to find a right fit,
Well, that has to be a relief for people. You're not trying to kick out individuals they have been working with perhaps years, decades. You're willing to work with their current team and maybe enhance it with advisors that you have relationships with. And then at the same time, if we go back to something you said earlier, making sure they have the right people on their teams in terms of experience or I would even say energy level, knowledge.
Usually a business owner knows the answer to that question. And so you have to kind of navigate that, and just say, hey, this group is going to help us with this piece, and we're not exiting our relationship at all and that kind of stuff. So usually it works out good. And you want to stay in your lane and know what you do and do it well. And so if there's a financial advisor or CPA or attorney that doesn't do this a lot, then they probably don't want to just tip their toe in the water. They probably want someone else to do it.
Yeah. Got it. If you are a business owner, but from a financial perspective, what are some critical financial metrics or KPIs that a business owner should focus on as they are attempting to maximize their business values? What should they be?
Obviously, top line and EBITDA. Reoccurring one things that we can help with or even like just brainstorm with is like a reoccurring revenue model. Sometimes those come in forms of subscriptions or contracts. It just makes the multiple higher, makes it stickier. So the buyer would like that reoccurring revenue better than a business that January 1, they have to start over, right? So let me see the big ones.
It's predictable, having that predictable income for the most part. Okay. Are there any specific legal considerations that a business owner should be aware of when they're planning an exit?
I just am big on, again, delegation. So like the biggest thing would be to have, it's kind of the theme of this, but have the right attorney, and make sure, you can spend hours and hours reviewing this stuff and still miss something. So if you have someone that's an attorney that's experienced in this, then they know what to look for and what to catch. And, every deal is different. So structuring those in different ways, if you're getting paid all up front or over 5 years. And so, goes into a whole tax thing, but I think you want to just kind of have the right people and let them do what they do.
Everything seems to be going back to team, having the right people, having the right team, and trusting in that team to operate on your behalf, to advise you well. I want to go back, and this is kind of outside of the exit planning realm, but go back to when you started your business. And you, as I was going through your bio, it's like you really set the foundation for kind of having an ensemble team of people to provide value. Where did you get that idea from early on when you were just kind of jumped in the deep end? You're out of college. You're not necessarily with one of these big advisory firms. You are forming something yourself. And you're saying, okay, we need to bring a team of people. Where did that come from?
So 2018, we started the ensemble practice, and that's just a fancy word for team approach. But we got to a point where we were growing, which was a good problem, but not growing in the right way. We wanted a more, again, it goes back to like unique ability that you hear from strategic coach and staying in your lane and doing what you know and what you're passionate about. And when you start in the business, you're wearing every hat. And so once you start growing, you want to add some staff and add some people that the funny thing is their unique ability is the opposite of yours. And so there's people out there that like to do what you don't want to do. And so building that team is critical. And it just makes sense for the client. You know, like there's clients that we have that they're not calling me on certain things, they're calling me the team, you know, and so we do have that. I'm glad you brought that up. That is something that, you know, it is a team approach on the like succession and exit planning, but also our wealth management, business and financial strategies that does a team approach. And so we all have different roles and a leadership team and all work together for the client.
Thank you. I'm vacillating between asking you this next question, and I think we've already touched on it, or even going back to the T. I want to say building of the team, identifying and knowing that you have a quality person on your side. So I think I'm going to do both. You mentioned 2018, you started the ensemble approach, the fancy word for team. And you also mentioned that business owners, as they're looking to exit in 5 to 10 years, that they need to make sure they have a solid external team with them. How do they know they have someone solid? Are there any sort of markers, credentials that individuals are looking for as they consider adding to their team? Now, I know if they're with you, you can help guide them. If they're with me, I could help guide them in the same way. But are there certain credentials that people should be looking for if they're attempting to do it on their own, which I don't necessarily recommend, but if they're attempting to do it on their own, how do they know that they have people that have the knowledge, that have decided to niche down like you did in whatever capacity of that the team member is potentially showing up?
One would be like the SEPA for financial advisor, certified exit planning advisor, that shows that they went through the class and that they are in that industry or in that specific niche. I think it goes back to like experience and, you know, asking the right questions to the advisors. And, you know, it's just like anything else, like getting a referral to a realtor or getting a referral, you know, so if like realtor analogy, if you're looking to buy a student housing multi-unit, you're not going to call a residential realtor, right? And so just making sure that they have the experience, if it's a CPA, attorney, financial advisor in that space, and have helped people, either guided them through an exit or just works with business owners and knows that industry.
Thank you. We've got the, I want to say this, so we've got the sort of SEPA certification, we have the experience, and I love that, the analogy or how you compared it to real estate, because it makes sense. We all, I say we all know, many of us know, I can't speak for everybody on the planet, but many of us know if we're buying a residential home, we see a certain type of realtor. If we are more in the commercial or multifamily, we might see a different one. So that makes sense to me. Is there a question? Let's pretend for a moment that someone is trying to vet a financial advisor. They get on LinkedIn, and maybe they don't see that someone is SEPA certified. Is there a question that they can ask, like one question to ask to make sure they're headed in the right direction with someone?
Yeah, I gotta be careful on that answer.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Okay.
So most financial advisors are in that space. That's just the norm.
Okay.
I would say on the realtor side, back to the realtor and the real like that, I would say most people are residential, right? There's more residential realtors than commercial realtors. As far as a question, I mean, the easy one would be like, do you work with business owners? And now more people are probably going to say yes because they want the business, but it's a really good question. But I mean, just getting into, I think the key is to get a referral. Like
a referral.
So you have that
makes sense.
that you trust. That's where I would start rather than going to LinkedIn to search.
Right. I want to LinkedIn and searching.
That trusted advisor, people, their CPA should have one or two that they can talk to. And
that's that's a great resource. And as you mentioned, the CPA in most cases is that trusted advisor. Okay. We talked about an estimated value for a business, and we know that if you're at the 5 to 10 year mark, that's what you're going to start with. But at some point, when you are ready to truly go to market, you need to have a proper valuation. Can you discuss the importance of proper valuation and how it impacts the exit process when they're close to truly exit?
The kind of get into that realistic number, right? I think just like the value of our house, I think most people think their house is worth more than it is, and similar to your business. But all that matters is what the buyer thinks and wants, right? And so you have to have that buyer or a list of buyers that are willing to pay for that and that price. And so I think, getting with a group that will kind of get into the weeds to ask the right questions and not just plug a number into a calculator is key.
No.
But, the back to the valuation and putting a stamp on that. Again, we don't do that for our service, but we know who does and can work with that. But, that just gives you some really good kind of research, and, you could put it in, it's almost like an appraisal of a real estate. Like you can put that in front of a buyer and be like, here's the number, and so obviously they can tweak that or change that, but it's a really good place to start.
Thank you. Are there any current market trends that you think business owners should be aware of that might have an impact or affect their exit strategy?
Usually the business owner knows the industry and market trends the best for that specific industry. And so just to make sure that they, are aware of what others are doing. And so it's kind of good to, if someone's in the, say they're a plumber or own a plumbing business, like, oh, the guy 30 miles down the road sold to this person, and then, finding that information out, I think, is key, because that sets a baseline. And if that starts going the other way, then you might sell earlier, or if it's going this way, you might, keep doing what you're doing. So just kind of being aware of that, so you don't miss a good opportunity, or the other way. If it, goes the other way, you can really, you missed the window.
I'm going back to real estate, and there was a time I would see when a house would sell in the area, then all of a sudden you get information that the realtor is saying, look, we just sold a house for this amount. It seems like it's that type of an awareness. However, instead of the plumber telling the other plumber, I just sold my business, they're just being active. They're going to have to actively look for that.
And that out at the coffee shop, or, through other people.
Yeah.
It's not as published, right?
It's not this. Exactly. How do you see the landscape of exit planning changing over the next few years?
Yeah, I think it's gaining momentum each year. I think, with private equity and businesses that are growing and kind of going into that private equity space, might not have been years ago in that realm. So, yeah, I feel like, the businesses, owners that are taking the time to plan ahead, their exit is better, and so I think, just making sure that you're aware of that. And I think that's more the last 5 years that people are doing a better job of that, and at least looking into that. And I think it's just with the percentages of businesses that will be selling, it's a high percentage. I don't know the details or anything like that, but there'll just be more businesses selling going forward.
And I'm curious, I wonder if it has anything to do with maybe there's better education that's out and available. And so people are thinking about exiting a little bit earlier. And then they have individuals like you and then organizations like you that you are leading that are putting out courses to help educate. And it's just making individuals aware. And so my guess is that there's going to continue to be more education on the topic, which means people will get started sooner rather than later, and it's going to be the norm.
Yeah, and I think that will each year that will just gain more and more momentum, and in more success stories that you see, it's like, well, maybe I should go try them. Maybe I should do this.
Yeah. I know I was speaking to someone at an event that was thinking about exiting, and unfortunately, this individual is ready to exit now and has done nothing from an exit planning standpoint. And I wonder how I would be curious to see if we could have them tracking down parallel universes or something. What would have changed if they had the proper education?
Right.
Because I've witnessed individuals that are just not quite ready. I've even seen it, and this is the one that surprised me. I've even seen it with private equity firms that want to exit, but even some of them weren't ready to exit, and they knew they were going to get out of the game, or that particular investment, I should say. But there's a, let's say there's a method to the madness of value enhancement, value acceleration, so that a company is ready. And not only that, there's that emotional component.
Yeah, I think the emotional side we help with a lot in doing a personal plan for the business owner, helping them.
Okay.
You know, I ask the question, so what are you going to do in retirement? And when a lot of times they say retire. You're like, well, I asked more details than that. You know, what are you going to spend your time doing and all that. But going back to the person that didn't plan and looking at retiring today, in my opinion, if you start early, the ball is in your court. I mean, if you and you need, and we've seen this and worked with, people engaged with us and it was kind of too late, if they need to sell or they're burnt out or there's a health thing that's going on, like it's usually they're not going to get the value. They're not going to get that valuation. And, it's going to sell for a lot less than if they plan and they are kind of running, they're in charge, I just think you lose control over that if you need to sell in a year or 6 months.
Yeah, in my head, I was thinking, wow, exit planning might be for control freaks. I'm not going to say really that's it. Planful individuals, but I think you stated it very well. If you want to be in control, then you have to do the work early on so that you can influence that multiplier. You are in a position of, I want to say, a positive position instead of being at the mercy of whoever is willing to buy.
And the thing is like, it's okay, I'm going to plan early. Well, it's not perfect. It's a rough draft. If you're 10 years out, there's no way whatever you predict today is going to happen. I'm just telling you that right now, right? So those are things that you tweak and change, just like on people's personal retirement. You can tweak those, and it's all about updating those on an annual basis. And you could go and say, I'm gonna sell my business in 10 years, and there's a huge offer or something changes in the market, and they a lot more than you thought it was going to be. Well, that's gonna make you probably act quicker, right? And now you're ready to sell because you've gone through all those planning. I had a client that told me, like, hey, man, I didn't realize this, and I didn't realize this, talk about me, but he said to me, like, now I'm ready. Like, if something happens to me health-wise, it's not a fire sale. We have our ducks in a row. We can now engage people and sell this thing. And I never thought of that before he said that to me.
That had to make him feel so amazing. That had to make him feel so amazing. And I think of this person that is ready to exit. I would love to get them to a position where they feel amazing, because right now, and it's because of burnout. Right now, they're looking for any way to get out, but it's not from a position of a power position. And I'm not saying power from a bossy standpoint, but it's not a power position.
Example, having them like almost like acknowledge that, take a step back, engage in some planning or some conversations, and then maybe a realistic is a 1-year exit,
Yeah. I like it. I know we prefer a 5 to 10 year ramp, but in this case, it's not now. It's a little later, and that could be a year, because you can get some things done and put in place. All right. Are there any resources, books, courses, tools? I know you have your course, but are there any other resources that you would recommend for owners to help them better understand exit?
Yeah, so we have our 5-day email course. That's a good way just to get some free education. And if things, if there's a spark there, then there's a way to click and engage us and start the conversation with me. A couple of books come to mind. Built to Sell by John Warlow. Another one is Walking to Destiny by Christopher Schneider.
Good. All right. And for those of you that may not be readers, at least for the books, you can always listen to them. Both of those are excellent books. I like the idea of the 5-day email course because it's just small little chunks and people can get engaged with the course and see if there is that spark. And for everyone that is listening, I will list all of the links and everything so you can get this course. It'll be in the body and the description of this episode. So we'll have that for you. Greg, what's one piece of advice you wish more business owners knew about exit planning? And we've talked a lot, and I don't know if you have anything else in there, but what's one piece of advice?
What comes to mind would be, get real with your valuation, and I think if you have a construction business that, someone else can go next door and start the same construction business, you want to make sure that you understand, the valuation. Just because someone sold theirs for X, X of revenue doesn't mean that's the same for you. So some people, I would say, business owners have a pie in the sky, unrealistic number. And so just getting a rough idea of what that is key. And you don't have to spend a lot of money on that. I'm not saying to do the stamped one, but you can. And then the other one that's been our common theme is you can never start too early to jump in and look at the business and how can you improve it.
I like that. And I'm going to go back to the real estate example because that's what I keep running to. You brought it up and I think it works. And you might live on the same street as someone, house the same size, but if they have a pool in the back, the value goes up depending on what special features they have on the inside, the value can go up. And when I hear you say that business owners need to get real about the valuation, business owners may need to realize that a company that might have sold for this huge amount of money, and you're thinking we're in the same industry, they might have a pool and you don't have a pool. They might have those special, I don't know what would be in the house, but they might have those special things that you don't see. And in this case, it could be connected to their human capital or their structural capital, and you're not seeing it. And that's where some of that value is won or lost.
So it's all custom and like just go the other route. Like not everybody wants a pool, right? So you really need partners on that too. So it's a good analogy because you can it just brings it back to that. It's custom and each one is different. That's
okay. How can business owners that are interested in going down this path, maybe trying to see if there's a spark, how can they get in touch with you to learn more about your services?
Our website, So it's www.bfsfinancialplanning.com. I think that will be in the link, right? And then there's
Okay. Yeah,
an exit map questionnaire. There's another to do the 5-day course. So those links are there. Yeah, I would say that would be a great start.
Okay, I've got 3 solid ways, and we could also put in your
Yes.
email address. So we'll have 4 ways for you to connect with Greg. Greg, is there anything else you'd like to share before we?
Yeah, I would sign one thing that we talk a lot with business owners would be like ROE, return on equity. And so if you own a real estate, back to our real estate conversation, or a farm, say someone has farm ground or a business that's $5 million, right? Net after debt and everything. And maybe you're getting paid a $250,000 salary for your role. But the big thing is looking at, what's the distribution? So if someone is getting a distribution of 100,000, well, that's a 2% return, and so, what can if we take that and put it somewhere else, what is that going to net out as far as a return, And so if we can go into the market, let's say, and get a 5 or 7% return, or you could put it into another real estate deal that's getting 8%. It's not telling people like, go sell your business now. It's just they're aware of kind of what that looks like. And are there ways to get that higher so you're getting a higher return on your equity?
Yes. I think that's a good point. Sometimes we can get so enamored with our business, hold on to it so tight, and 80% of our equity is tied up in that business. And if we're willing to just start exploring the possibilities with the possibilities of what we can do in terms of, like you mentioned, return on equity, if we were to sell. You said you're not telling people to sell, but if you just start thinking about the possibilities and start thinking about what's, perhaps there's a book, I think it's called The Other Side of the Mountain, and it's really around, it's what do you do after you're done working, but what would you do after? There's just so much to it. So I appreciate you bringing up that return on equity.
Just to wrap up on that, like we see it a lot in farm ground in Iowa. And so they a farm that's passed down to them, or a portion of the farm, and if that's usually that's in the millions, and there's an emotional tie to that. It might be where they grew up, or it was dad's farm. And so there's that part I can't touch and go over. I can talk on the financials, but the emotional side usually is tied to that farmland, and also, like you said, the business.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time and answering all of my what felt like a gazillion questions. I appreciate it. And I'm sure that everyone that has an opportunity to listen to this from beginning to end appreciates it as well. And so that's it, everyone. This has been an interview with Greg McLaughlin, and I'm your host, Erica Lane, and this is the Exit Guild. Have an excellent day.